We should just full send. And you know what we should do? And
What
here's a
should we
little
do?
thing that I think would be a little bit of a development. Now you can just totally get the formal introduction to the week and kind of like timestamp or whatever. Or you can just start recording right now, and we just kind of bullshit before we kind of go into the thing,
I
like a
am
little
recording right
casual entry.
now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I
Oh
got
my
all
god!
that.
And you know what I would love for everyone to kind of understand, and I think you're going to be way better at providing context to what we're doing with this specific episode, but maybe just a little overview of what we're looking like in the future of what we're going to be doing.
My initial vision for the podcast was to more so cover the like interest piece, the more in-depth, detailed look into the players' lives and sort of the backstories and what's going on off the field. But Z has a lot of good content for the stats and fantasy and matchups and things like that I'm totally on board with. But it was just a little like not my vision, I suppose. So we decided that we're going to do 2 episodes a week, one of which being more the like pop culture side of things, and the other one being more of the nitty gritty stats and preparing you for sports betting, but not really because we know nothing. So yeah, does that kind of sound right, Z?
That is perfect. I couldn't have said it better myself.
But yeah, let's get into my vision here, which is some of the most intriguing situations going on off the field. We get a lot of our information from Instagram, and I send Z lots of articles for him to review. So this is one that I saw 2 days ago, I think, and it is about DeAndre Baker, who was arrested for, what was it, armed robbery?
What they were saying is that he was at a barbecue, allegedly with Quinton Dunbar, and he held 4 people at gunpoint.
Oh, yeah. Okay, right. So he was allegedly doing that bad stuff. But all of the charges against him are being dropped because the lawyer in the case was being arrested for extortion. So the lawyer of the people who were trying to get DeAndre in trouble here. So basically, investigators said that Dean said his clients would do anything you want so long as the money is right, which is just like blatant blackmail extortion there. What are your thoughts on this so far, Z?
Well, we know accusations and allegations can ruin someone's life, especially when it comes to the NFL, NBA, hockey. Even a kid in hockey, in the NHL for the Arizona Coyotes, was dropped from the team from alleged bullying, and then it was confirmed that he was
For
bullying
bullying?
for bullying uh, a handicapped person of color in high
Oh,
school.
okay. Well, that's
And
not cool.
yeah, and for things like that. So that confirmed, but even things like charges, that's all it takes, even allegedly. So it really sucks that, because clearly and personally, I think he's totally fine. Like Quinton Dunbar's still there. All the charges were dropped against Dunbar immediately because they had no evidence that he was really there. And now with Baker, like the amount of stress you're going through, and then to have that happen where they come up to you and your lawyer and they're like, hey man, like give me the money and we'll lie and we'll do whatever, which is just stupid. And these guys
So
are idiots for
stupid.
doing that. So
Oh, completely. What do
mhm.
you think the future is for Baker then? Like, do you think he'll get picked up? So he was a former Giants cornerback. I guess he's been off the field for a while. Do you think he has any chance coming back?
Hmm, I'm not too sure, but I mean, we also
But
know that the Giants they could use any help they could need. So if he's the right guy, then go
if
for
he's
it,
the
right?
guy for it, oh, that's so brutal. I'm
Hmm.
just reading on Google. Is DeAndre Baker good? um, yeah, he is allowed a 149.9 passer rating, which is the worst in the NFL. And yeah, so I guess not. So Anyways, the point is his life was derailed by these horrible accusations, and I'm really glad that it's been all sorted out in his favor, and hopefully he'll find some peace and some redemption out there. So that was one of the first things that I saw this week. And another one, I'm just going through our shared Google Doc, and I've left notes the way that I I made them, I guess, and then Z comes in and adds all this stuff, and it's a very specific his tone. So, do you want to take this one because I'm just laughing reading what you have here?
Yeah. I mean, what happened this weekend, and for anyone that watched the Week 10 of the NFL, the Cardinals and Bills game, like, oh my God, that that ending to the game. I'm sure people were that are kind of fluent within the sports world saw that someone on Barstool Sports bet $50,000 on the Bills winning, the
What?
Buffalo Bills winning. Yeah, $50,000 on just the money line. That was it. And what happened in the game, just for some context behind everything, is Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals pulled off Russell Wilson esque style, came back in the fourth quarter and won the game with a Hail Mary, like a beautiful Hail Mary to DeAndre Hopkins. And it was,
I think to call it a Hail Mary is like not enough. It was more than that because it was into triple coverage. Like it's such a fluke, I want to say, but it was spectacular. It was off his back foot. He just slings it down the field and just miraculously D-hops there to pull it in. It Everyone I was with was on their feet just screaming watching it because it was an unbelievable play, like one of the plays of the year for sure.
I'm going to say top five easily. And it's even like at the beginning of the year, just to kind of understand where the Cardinals are playing. So they play in the NFC West, which is the Seattle Seahawks, Arizona Cardinals, the LA Rams, and the San Francisco 49ers. So the Seattle Seahawks just like took the beginning of the season. Like they were 4-0, they were unreal. And now the Cardinals, the Rams, the Seahawks are all 6-3, with the Niners at 4-6. And the 49ers are still kind of in it. Even though they're ravaged by injury. And Kyler, it was like the first half of the season was all Russell Wilson, and now we're seeing the Cardinal Murray step up into that role of taking the NFC West. And I mean, for those who don't know DeAndre Hopkins, he is easily, I mean, Lisa, would you say he's like one of the top five wide receivers in the league?
Oh, for sure. He was very high up in the draft for fantasy rankings. So, yeah, he's on my team and I'll take him any day. He's spectacular.
Yeah, and that's exactly why they brought him in, and a solid piece for a rookie quarterback in Kyler Murray to utilize. And so far,
Completely.
it's just been a dreamboat for them.
A dreamboat. Yeah, exactly like that. So that's just some context behind one of the most incredible plays I've seen live ever. This is why we say that NFL and live sports is the best reality TV out there because you can't script these sorts of things and it's truly unexpected. Like when we're watching The Bachelor, and you'll listen to our podcast about that, I'm sure you'll hear me discussing how like this here is a producer manipulation and I can tell who's going home tonight based on how much airtime so and so gets. It's reality TV, but it's so manipulated. Whereas something like this, you just can't script. You can't script the injuries. You can't script the triumphs and the miseries. That's why I absolutely love football, is for moments like this. Um, that's the context and the background. And I want to get a little bit of a profile here of who Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins are because Kyler Murray's just coming up there, and DeAndre Hopkins has a very interesting backstory that I wanted to get into. Starting off with Kyler Murray here, he is a Heisman Trophy winner, and I found that he was also a top prospect for baseball. So lots of these super athletic folks are just rising through the ranks of all of these sports. I don't know if you could choose between being a pro NFL player or a pro baseball player, what would you pick, Z?
Baseball.
Because there's no
Like
CTE.
I'd pick golf. Like
Oh yeah,
if I could restart, I could hit the big restart button on my entire life. I would just play golf. But that's because baseball, low impact, you can play for longer. There's more money in it, way more money in it,
but such a
and
time
it's just
commitment. There's so many
it.
games per week.
Oh my god, like that's the only downside, right? Like NFL, and you don't get physical in baseball. I'm naturally geared towards physicality, but baseball just is like you're hanging out with the boys. You go up, you do your thing every day. Essentially, there's like no days off,
No
and it's
days
in
off.
some respects the same as the NFL. It's just for the MLB and baseball,
It's
you're
so much.
it's a lot.
And
But
that's why it's hard to
I,
be a baseball fan, I would say, because like if you're following the Blue Jays, does that mean I need to watch 4 games a week and each game is 5 hours long or whatever it is? Whereas
mhm.
with NFL, it's just okay, here's my game on Sunday. I'm putting aside 3 hours, 4 hours to watch this game. If you're like Z and myself, we're sitting there from 10 a.m. to like 8 p.m. But you know what I mean. Like you only need to dedicate one day to this sport. Whereas with baseball, it's constant. So, but I just thought that was interesting that he was a top prospect for baseball as well.
The-
He's sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say like that's just the same thing as like Russell Wilson. He was a highly touted uh, baseball prospect. He even trained with the Yankees in the off season.
Oh,
So Kyler Murray, Russell is like kind of the same token as Russell Wilson. Or Kyler
yeah.
Murray, pardon me, is the same token as Russell Wilson. And just for those who don't know, the Heisman Trophy is awarded every year to the most outstanding NCAA football player.
Yeah. And I'd like to, in future episodes, go into some of the Heisman Trophy winners and kind of see did they succeed? Did they, like, what happened to them? Because we know of a few Heisman Trophy winners who kind of burnt out as soon as they got to the NFL. So I find that quite interesting. And you find some of them who are on trial for murder. So, yeah, well, maybe you get a chance to chat about that in the
Wait,
future.
who?
OJ won the Heisman.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
totally different episode.
Spoiler alert. But yeah, I want to get into the Heisman Trophy winners in the future.
That's
But
fun.
Kyler Murray is among good company there. He's a third generation Korean American, and we don't see many people of Asian descent in the NFL, so it's always good to see some diversity there. But one interesting note about Kyler is that people were skeptical about his size. So he's 5'10" and 207 pounds. And it is kind of bizarre to say that this makes him small because the average height of an American male is 5'9", but the average height for an NFL quarterback is 6'2.5". So in terms of NFL players, he is smaller. And it turns out he was the first quarterback under 6 feet to ever be drafted in the first round. But that just shows that it's just a testament to his pure talent, right? That there are all these statistics and measurements that scouts are looking at when they're during the combine and so on, and it just doesn't matter. He's got pure talent. I mean, he's a Heisman Trophy winner, so really, like, you can't go wrong. But one metric that apparently does matter is hand size. So I went down this rabbit hole today looking into hand size. And I won't go into too many details, but basically how it goes is that the smaller your hands are, the higher your fumble rate is. It's just
What?
statistically in there. Yeah, well, you don't if your mitts aren't that big, like the ball's gonna slip out of your hand pretty much. And in the league right now, the person with the largest hands are is Dak Prescott, and apparently his hands are just gigantic. So, and his fumble rate is much smaller. So there you have it. That's the only time it seems that size is really indicative of anything. Do you have any thoughts on Kyler before we move on to DeAndre?
You know what? It doesn't like I totally get. I've never. First off, I've didn't even read that.
Oh, really?
Like I no, I didn't at all. I think that's really interesting that he is so physically diminutive because like he doesn't play like that. He's running all the time. He is the first quarterback in the Super Bowl era and the fourth quarterback in NFL history to rush for a touchdown in 5 consecutive games. And then he's got 10 rushing touchdowns this season, which is tied uh, for 10 for the most by a quarterback in his team's first 9 games.
My goodness.
So he's like a different level. He's kind of like again like I love Russell Wilson. I think he's great, and they're in the same division. And I think they're so similar in that sense. And it's just kind of like a little bit of a finer tuned Russell in that sense, a little bit more able to run, and he utilizes that great.
Yeah, there you have it. I'm also here looking at the hand size of Dak Prescott, his wingspan of his hands. I guess they're going from thumb to pinky, looks like, and it's 10 inches, 0.875, and his fumble rate is 8.28, which is one of the lowest here. Only lower on this list here is, oh, Deshaun Watson. Look at you. His is only 5.5%, and his hands are 9.75. So it's not completely correlated, but definitely as you look up the list, the bigger your hands are, the sturdier you are with the ball, which completely makes sense. So that pretty much covers it on Kyler Murray. So he's a rising star. I picked him up for my fantasy league as my quarterback, and he wasn't, super. There wasn't a lot of information on him, but I think I was talking to Z about it, and he's like, he's got an elite receiver to go to. Like, don't even worry about it. He's going to be fine. And that elite receiver being DeAndre Hopkins. So we've seen a bit about DeAndre in the media lately, just about him like flipping off Trump protesters and things like that, which turns out that, I mean, he says that he was motioning to do a peace sign, but it was photographed like flipping the bird. So he was just in the media recently for that. But I actually knew something about him from before that I thought was super sweet, and I wanted to get into that here. So just some background on DeAndre is that he grew up with a single mom after his dad died in a car accident when he was a little baby. So his dad actually was hydroplaning and got into a bad car accident and died, unfortunately. Accounts of him from younger said that he loved fashion and he would wear girls' jeans with embellishment. Like, think of those like with like hearts on the pockets and rhinestones and stuff. That's what I'm imagining. And he would wear scarves and just colorful. So he was a jazzy guy growing up. And
He was Cam Newton before Cam Newton.
exactly, he was the original Cam Newton. And interestingly enough, in this article by ESPN, it was noted that he had oversized hands when he was younger and was completely unstoppable when playing football. They were saying that in high school, like, it wouldn't be uncommon for him to get 5 or 6 touchdowns per half. So those big hands were a good advantage for him as a young guy. So that's just him growing up. A horrible tragedy happened to his family in 2002. His mom had acid thrown on her face by a total stranger. So she gradually lost her vision entirely. Like, it came in bouts that she would have a little bit here and then so on and so on, but eventually it completely went away. But during games, her children will gather around her and give her the play-by-play for her son. And this was the sweet headline that I saw, was that after he scores a touchdown, DeAndre will go and give his mom the game ball whenever he can. So she sits in the same spot every time he has a home game, and he'll run it over to her, which I thought was absolutely adorable. And in this article, it said a quote from DeAndre saying, "I'm always picturing her whenever I make a catch, her reaction," he says. "And sometimes when I drop the ball, I'm like, darn it, I let my mama down." So he's just the cutest, sweetest relationship with his mom. I think it's adorable that they're rallying together, because it was saying also in this article that before she lost her vision, like, she was on the field with him, like, was super involved, like getting up in the referees' faces and giving them a little talking to whenever they needed it. So for her to lose her vision and to not be able to witness fully her son succeeding in at an elite level in such a competitive sport, it's really heartbreaking. And not to mention that it was a stranger who did this to her. I mean, there's some sort of connection in that it was her, like, boyfriend's other girlfriend, but she hadn't met her. It was just walks up and tosses acid on her face. So, horrible tragedy. Do you have anything to add to that one about DeAndre?
Nah, there's just true evil in the world, and that it's just sad, and it's just nice to hear that she's alive and she's doing well, and they've made the best out of their situation
Mm-hmm.
through
Totally.
pure tyranny. So it's great. It's a feel good situation.
Yeah.
And as far as like D Hop goes, just as a player and just how he carries himself, I mean, he's one of the best. He's a true sportsman, and it's good to see like interdivisional rivals. I get it, biased because I'm a Seahawks guy,
Mm-hmm.
but like I could definitely see them taking the division this year if the Seahawks continue to play so poorly.
Totally. And
Oh,
like,
and on a lighter note,
yeah.
also biggest hands in sports history. I was
Okay.
Boban Marjanovic
Okay.
with 12-inch hand, 12
What?
measured by 12 inches.
Is he a basketball player?
Yeah. The
Okay, there
next
you
is
go.
Shaquille O'Neal,
Okay, there it is. There it
just a
is.
little under 12. So
But just getting back to D Hop here, just touching on our conversation from last week about how these fantasy players, we just kind of sometimes hope that they have a little mini injury that gets them out of the game. I think when you know, dig down and get to know them a little bit better as people and not just little players on your screen, it makes it a lot harder to hope that they get a mild concussion protocol. But yeah, I'm a big fan. So sweet, so sweet. And then moving on to I guess it's kind of a feel good story, but it starts with a gruesome story. So can you kick it off here for us, Z?
yeah, no, it's another kind of a feel good story coming through true adversity and kind of ending up in a on top in a good position. There is the resurgence of a football player of the name Alex Smith. Now he's a quarterback for the Washington at the time, the Washington Redskins. Uh, since then, they've changed their name to the Washington Football Team for because it's 2020, whatever. So that was in 2018, November 2018. And on that day, he was playing against the Houston Texans. He had like probably the most gruesome leg injury ever. It was brutal. Um, he had a really, really poor recovery. So like it was 368 days. He had 17 surgeries. They had to repair a fractured tibia, his fibula, and when he was recovering, he actually had a bacterial infection, and he was like this close, like so close to losing his leg
And
and his
dying
life
too.
and
Yeah,
dying. Yeah, like
in general.
he was that close to death. So
Well, and
he
I heard about this bacterial infection, but I didn't realize like how could he get a bacterial infection? It's because his leg snapped so badly that the bone popped out and it caused like an open wound. Like it was cracked in half so severely that there was an open wound on his leg. So because of that, he was susceptible to a bacterial infection that nearly killed him. So what they were doing is like sorry, I get queasy thinking about this, so just like skip 30 seconds if this is an issue for you, but they were like scraping down his skin to a little thin little nub in there to get all of the infection out. Like just absolutely disgusting, but they saved his leg, thank goodness. So sorry to interrupt, but keep it on.
yeah, no, like, and just I'm gonna kind of, she said 30 seconds, make it another 30 seconds,
Oh
because just a
no.
little bit of, I kind of had a similar experience, a little off topic, but I had my ear ripped off playing rugby when I was in high
Oh,
school, and it looks fine now. Everything's great. If you need a plastic surgeon, go to Dr. Chris Taylor in Victoria.
Chris
Unreal,
Taylor.
Chris Taylor. But they had to freeze my entire ear, and in order to stitch the cartilage back together, they had to take steel medical wool, and they had to
Oh.
grind my ear so that all the edges were flat before they could stitch the cartilage and the skin back
Were
on.
you conscious for this?
Yeah, all 5 hours of the surgery.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. But you know what? And after that, it's been very hard for me to play play the sport. Little
Yeah.
traumatized, but anyways, we're gonna go back to Alex Smith here. So
Yeah. Okay.
you can unmute now if you want.
Yeah.
This is your unmute button notification. Now, Alex Smith, brutal, brutal, brutal. 2 years off. So he's back now. Okay, he's back with the Washington football team. He's considered an old guy at 36. He's starting his first game in over 2 years, and that was a close game. And this is around the NFL. Everyone's rooting for Alex Smith because he overcame death, and now he's playing on the team again. And where the Washington football team is right now, they're like 2-7. They've got nothing to lose and like everything to gain right now. So he has a real opportunity to go in, and they're playing against sexy Joe Burrow and the Bengals next week, and like a brutally
Did you
depleted
just say
Cowboys
sexy
team that
Joe
we.
Burrow?
Okay, he stop. Yes, don't king
Okay.
shame me.
Okay. How
And
old is he?
old enough.
Oh,
So
oh
they're
no.
playing against the Cowboys the week after that, and he's got enough time in those 2 weeks to really prove to the sporting world that he still has it. And mind you, they're in the NFC East, right? So that division, the Eagles 3-5, Giants 3-7, Washington football team 2-7, and the Cowboys are 2-7. They're like 1.5 games away from being at the leaderboard if the Eagles lose and the Cowboys lose.
There you go.
So
Yeah, everyone's rooting for Alex Smith here, but it also should be noted how this circumstance happened that Alex Smith ended up starting, and it was Kyle Allen actually had what looks like a season-ending injury in the same month that Alex Smith was injured 2 years ago, and you might recall him just kind of doubling over on his ankle in a pretty gruesome snap there. So it's sort of a cyclical thing here, but I mean, we just come to expect these horrible injuries, and I mean, what are you going to do about it? And I actually just looked up that Alex Smith, he, in his like injury that almost ended his life, it was JJ Watt who tackled him. And it's just so wild to me that something as routine as a tackle, which I mean, it sounds ridiculous because it's not super routine for regular folks, but something as routine as a tackle by JJ Watt can put you in a circumstance where you might be losing your leg. So I just found that interesting. Do you have any other thoughts on Alex Smith's triumphant return here?
No, but I know that the Bengals are. I know they lost terribly to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
But I really believe that uh, the Bengals are a great young team, and it'll be tough for the Washington
We
football team
weren't
to come
even
back.
talking about that. I guess we were kind of. You just want to
Oh
bring
no,
Joe
no, but
Burrow into the conversation, don't you?
okay. So yes, one, two. Also, Alex, they're playing against the Bengals.
Okay, I thought you were just
So
kind of bringing it back to Joe Burrow.
no, I just think it's going to be a tough game for Alex Smith to get. Um, and like I said, it's going to be one that he can win, but it'll be a tough one to win
There you
because
go.
I like how the Bengals are looking, and this is his chance to get his first W in over 2 years.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And now we have something that's probably close to your heart, being Russell Wilson's dismal performance against the Rams this week. And what was going through my head while watching this game was that if he was in contention for being MVP this year or getting any votes, it's just out of the question now. It was a really it was a mediocre performance, and I don't think he has a chance anymore, especially when you compare him to these flashy players like Kyler Murray, who are kind of the same quality and level. There's just no chance at this point. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you can't have games like that.
No.
Um, and for the past games, he's been struggling. And even when they did win, he was on pace for record numbers, but he can only do so much. It's an older Russell Wilson now, and whereas he used to have an unreal defense on his side that gave him the ball and a lot more opportunity to do well, they don't have that right now. They are one of the poorest defensive sides in the entire league, and there's only so much. Sorry, take two. The offense builds off of defensive momentum, and it seems like the defensive momentum is built off the offensive momentum, if that makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
so they perform well, but they can't. There's only so much the team's pulling right now, and that's half the team is winning the game, and the other half they can't win. So
Yeah.
it's tough, and he, like I said, he's an older Russell Wilson, and he's going to need a lot more help than what he has now.
Yeah, I totally agree. But there were seasons when he should have been in contention, but to never receive a single vote is it's bizarre to me. And it was looking like it was going to be his year, but it just isn't the case. And when I was kind of looking into why he might be having off games, I was like, isn't his wife pregnant? Maybe he's got like a new baby on the way or something, and things at home are a little bit stressful. And I was absolutely right. He and his wife Sierra welcomed their second child together, and it was a boy named Win. You heard that right. It's Win Wilson. What are your first impressions of that, Z?
I like it.
You like
I
it?
mean, if it's short for winter, then okay, great.
Why is it short for
Winter's
winter?
Winterer. I actually have a friend named Winterer, and we call him Win for short. It should be that. I don't know. It probably is.
I
Probably
think it's
isn't.
just Win. I'm
I think
pretty
it's
sure
just
it's just.
Win.
I think it's just Win. Yeah.
Win. Win. Win
Well, I mean,
Wilson.
Sierra has 3 kids, and her first baby's name is Future. Probably, I mean, named after the kid's father, which is Future.
Wait,
But
really?
yeah, their first child is Future.
Ciro is married to Future?
I don't know if they were married, but they have a baby together. And
Future.
I've heard that when Russell Wilson would go to away games, that the opposing teams would be playing like Future music over the stadium speakers just to throw him off. I might just be like something that I'm hearing, but yeah. Anyways, they've got Future, and I think Sienna, and now this is Win. But this kind of brought me into another rabbit hole of interesting baby names from the NFL. And the one that came to mind immediately was Cam Newton has a child named Chosen, which is unique. I think it definitely goes with his style. Ty Montgomery has a baby named Stone. So that's all I came up with for NFL. I'm sure there are a lot more. Well, and Deion Sanders. Here we go. So Deion Sanders has Deion Jr., Deandra, Shadur, Shalomi, and Shiloh. So I thought most notably naming, I'm assuming is a girl named Deandra. Like, way to go. Really keeping the lineage strong there. Chad Johnson here has Jasira? I don't know. And Sade, spelled like Chad with an E at the end, and then Chad Johnson the second, and then Chael.
Chad Johnson the second.
Chad Johnson the second, for sure. And then here are a few that aren't NFL related. Sylvester Stallone has a child named Sage I can't even say it. Sage Moonblood. Manny Pacquiao has Princess and Queen Elizabeth. And then this guy, Arthur Ashe, who plays tennis, he's got a baby named Camera. I mean, bless them.
Is Camera a guy or a girl?
I don't know. I didn't look into it. There's a child named Camera.
Okay, interesting.
It rolls off the tongue. And that also brought me into memorable names of current or past NFL players. Do you want to read through these here?
If I can. I don't know if I can.
Oh, I can.
Okay.
I can do it.
Here, we have... I'll give it a try.
Okay.
Okay. We have Bakari Rambo.
Great name.
Barkevius Mingo. Then that one rolls off the tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Crefonzo Thorpe. That's hilarious. Okay, I know this one. DeBrickashaw Montgomery Ferguson. Jaquiz Rogers.
Jaquiz, yeah.
Jaquiz? Okay.
Jaquiz.
Is this Plaxico? Antonio Burris?
Plaxico Antonio.
Ha Clinton Dix. And then, oh yeah, Ndamukong Suh. Actually, I love that name. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And you wrote this down. I had a look at this, and then I was just like on my own time, just kind of looking around at like kind of like weird kids' names. It like the celebrity one, not the athletes, but the celebrities. That is a rabbit hole. You can go on forever and find out.
The
kids' names.
It's fascinating.
But, like Frank Zappa named his kids Moon Unit, Dweezil, and Diva Thin Muffin.
No!
Like those
what?
are yeah.
Diva Thin Muffin?
I'm not lying. Diva Thin Muffin.
That's unbelievable. Do you say moon unit?
Moon Unit and Dweezil.
What's a moon unit?
I don't know. It's currency in outer space.
Oh.
And Dweezil's just like unfortunate. Dweezil Zappa. Moon Unit Zappa. Diva Thin Muffin Zappa. Just sit and think and just...
Oh, no.
Like, you thought kids' names are getting a little bit weirder these days. Like, Elon Musk named his kid after some, like...
Formula?
Yeah, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And so, even back then, back in the day, just as weird. Just as weird.
That's so wonderful. I need to pause here. Okay, we're rolling again here. These are some remarkable creative names, and like, who am I to judge? So,
okay, what do you want to name your kids' names?
Great question. Because my boyfriend and I have talked about this. So I have a family name that I want to include, at least as a middle name. It's my great grandma, and it's Antonia, or Antonia, depending on who you ask. Alex likes Antonia, and her real name was Antonia. But there you go. And we actually really like the name Leonardo. And we haven't gotten too much pushback on that, which is interesting because it's not a name that you typically hear, but you know, Leo is quite cute, and I think Leonardo da Vinci is an absolute baller, and my boyfriend really likes Leonardo DiCaprio. So there you have it. I know you've thought really hard about, sorry, are you gonna bug me about Leonardo first before we move on to yours?
No, I think that's a great name.
Oh,
Leonardo.
really? Oh,
Yeah, it's
sick.
like a
Okay.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. That's great.
I know it's rooted in history. Like my boyfriend's Italian, so it goes really well with his last name. I think it works. And Leo's super cute. So there you have it. But we'll see. It's not going to be another couple years until I have a child. So. But yeah, I know you've thought long and hard about your children's names. So, do you want to share them, or are you too afraid that someone's going to steal your cool names?
No, God, no one's gonna steal these names. That's why they're great. Yeah, I don't know. I think about it a lot, but I'm in absolutely no, like, I'm sure a lot of 27-year-olds in this world are not even conditioned or ready to even think about having children. So it's a
Yeah, but you were
while a ways away.
married. You were like full on married and had to have these conversations. So
Yeah,
there you go. But
yeah. Now we're here.
now we're
Um,
here. Mhm.
yes, I want my so like it's like family names. Like I love that idea. I think it's great, and it kind of like sticks. I kind of like the idea of how would you say like a little bit old school,
Yeah,
and I kind of
classic.
like that classic names. Yeah, so I want my daughter's name to be Florence. I like Florence. And I want two sons, and I want one of them to be Solomon, which is my middle name, and Archibald, which is a family name.
Yeah,
Flo,
so
Archie, and Solly.
I agree with most. You know my feelings on Archibald, though. I don't think Archie works. But I mean, my opinion doesn't matter. It just reminds me of Archie comics and like a little redhead dude. So
Yeah, he
it,
wheels. Archie wheels. That's
Archie
why
feels. Yeah, that's true.
Archie wheels so hard. Are you kidding me? With Betty and Veronica? Like, oh my god.
They both won. I don't get it. He's super basic. But
That's
he's
why. That's why I want Archie.
okay. Fair enough. But yeah, we'll see. I'm very interested to see if your ex, who you picked these names with, is going to try and name her kids these names. You know, like, do you think she'd do that?
Um, no, she wouldn't do that
No.
because I'd get mad at her, and
Oh.
she'd get upset that I'd
Oh.
get mad
Okay.
at her.
Okay.
No,
Okay. I guess that's fair. But you're fine to use those names without her. So, but they're your family names, so
hundred
I guess
percent.
that's
It's
fine.
my world, and everyone's living in it. So
You've made that abundantly clear. So,
100%.
speaking of self-centered and absent-minded folks out there, we got new Antonio Brown news.
Speaking
So,
of which, of course,
speaking of which, this is news that happened, I guess, a few months ago, but is just coming to light now. Antonio Brown is being accused of criminal mischief. But charges were not filed due to the fear of retaliation. What does that say about a guy that you're too afraid to file charges because you think he's going to retaliate? So basically, what happened is that he's accused of destroying a security camera in Florida, in the Florida community where he was living at the time. I was wondering if it was in the house he was living in with Tom Brady, but it doesn't seem like that because it was a few weeks ago. It was before he was signed by the Buccaneers. So there was probable cause to charge him with criminal mischief. So the scenario was Antonio had a guest coming to visit, but the guest was not allowed through the gate unless Antonio was there to like welcome him in, I guess. So Brown threw his bicycle at the gate arm and tore down posters with COVID guidelines on them. The visual that I really enjoy here is Antonio Brown just like cruising around on a little bike. I don't know. I find that visual really adorable. Um, Oh yeah, so it says here it took this took place 2 weeks before he signed with the Bucks, and they knew about it, and they said like nothing's been charged. It's just him being a bit of a tool. So nothing for them to really worry about. But they're following all these accusations because there's plenty at this time, plenty of accusations. And they're following them all closely, and they'll take the necessary steps if he gets accused of anything or that he gets charged for anything officially. So, do you have any thoughts on that?
yeah, like
Lots.
yeah, he's a bit of a recidivist. I think a lot of people don't really, especially because this is going to be for this is following the um kind of the culture of football, what's happening around it, and more of the storylines that are happening. And just a little refresher on Antonio Brown, he's had problems before.
Mm-hmm.
So with the law, he's had accusations. He's been kicked off of a team before. He's just never really been able to kind of just figure it out. He's kind of one of those guys who's just like a phenomenal athlete with unlimited potential, but he's his own worst enemy. And it would just be so good. Like, he's living with Tom Brady now. If there's anyone that like oozes consistency and like normalcy, it's that guy. So I think he's going to be a good roommate, good roommate with Tom Brady, and hopefully
Okay,
that.
when we say roommate though, like you guys should look up this house. Like, did I
Oh, I
send
haven't even
you?
seen it.
You didn't even see it.
No, I'm gonna look it up
It
right now.
it looks like Windsor Palace. It's so enormous. This thing. There's like two huge wings. It's like he'll have his own apartment. So it's not like in the morning he's just, rubbing shoulders with Giselle and like giving high fives to his sons and things like that. It's not going on in that way. I'm sure he has his own kitchen and suite and all that. But yeah, he is under the same roof as Tom Brady, presumably to make sure that he stays in check and just follows all his rules and regulations to make sure that he can play and not screw over the team like that. So, but yeah, it's just one thing after another with this guy.
That's
Do
an all
you?
right house. Oh
It's
my god.
it's an all right house.
I would want to. I don't care. If I was living with Tom Brady, I'd want the room right next door to him, just right there. So every morning I wake up, I walk out of my room, knock on his door, I give Tom Brady a little kiss on the forehead.
Of
It's like, "Good
course,
morning, sweet prince. How are you?" Bring Giselle some coffee in bed.
it
Like,
sounds
that's
like
the
you have.
lifestyle that I want.
It sounds like you've thought about this a fair amount.
No, I actually haven't. This is all the emotions that are coming up right now. The
Oh, good.
truest.
That must be very pure then.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, just in general, a little recap on Antonio Brown, what he's up against right now. Pleaded no contest to felony burglary with battery and two lesser misdemeanor charges. Sexual assault from a former trainer and problems with the Raiders GM for not wearing the right helmet. So this is all the controversy that is surrounding him at the moment. This is just one more thing. But if he makes an impact in the game going forward, I think the Buccaneers are just going to forget about it. So I think that pretty much covers it, though. Do you have any final thoughts on Antonio here?
I've got nothing on Antonio. He's a recidivist. I really hope he just figures it out and like taps into his true potential. He's been getting better with the Buccaneers, looking a little bit more normal there. Um, I would I just like to see him get back to a place where he's just killing it every week. That's
Yeah,
it.
I just want to see him perform because he's a spectacular athlete. So interesting to watch, so exciting, so dynamic, and we're not getting that yet. It's just a matter of time, hopefully. But if these charges kind of truncate that, then I'm going to be very disappointed. So I'm really hoping that we can see more from him in the future. But if
Truncate word
he,
of the day.
isn't that nice? Yeah.
It's a good word.
I went to university, but I mean, he just needs to stop acting like a loser, and then we can see that. So there you go. And there you have it. But that covers all the stories that we have come across this week. We were aiming for this to be a half-hour session here, and it is decidedly longer than that. But that's good because we are putting out another different episode to cover most of the fantasy implications and matchups and down to the nitty gritty with the statistics and so on. So I'm glad that we had a chance to dig deeper into these storylines here and cover that. Do you have any final thoughts here?
I got nothing. I think that was great, and I'm like, because I'm so absorbed with the fantasy side and the betting side that I don't actually get to get the human side of things too much. I generally disregard the storyline topics, but like getting into it on a deeper level and like understanding a lot of where people came from and like their story, it just it just adds a different level. It's like you said, it's the ultimate reality TV show.
And I think it makes it more interesting when you know the background of the people that you're watching, right? Like now when you watch DeAndre Hopkins catch a touchdown, think, oh, like I wonder if he's going to go drop it off to his mom, or like who's describing this to his mom, and that kind of thing. So it makes the game a lot more real and interesting to me. So now you will have that perspective as well.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I shall let you go get back to studying, and I'm getting hungry here. So thanks for sitting down with me on such late notice, and we'll probably be recording again tomorrow. So I'll talk to you in a few short hours.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir. Okay, bye.